To celebrate our coverage of the Orioles on 30 Clubs in 15 days later on, and Orioles Executive VP and GM Mike Elias oversaw a historic turnaround between 2022 and 23, an 18-win improvement. Doesn't happen very often in Major League history, as this board accentuates. And Mike takes some time to join us on Hot Stove on this Thursday. Mike, good morning. Good to see you.
Hey, guys. How you doing?
We're doing great, and I want to ask you to kick things off here about the fact that now that you guys are the defending division champs, if spring training feels different, if it's conducted any differently, as opposed to coming there as a team that's trying to claw your way out of the cellar, you guys now have the target on your back. Has that changed anything for you?
I'll say this group came in kind of picking up where they left off, and I mean that in a good way. The returning guys, the core guys, they all came in game shape. They're in the flow of hanging out with one another again. It just really felt like they were eager to get back together and get back to work, because we did fall very short of our goals in the playoffs, but had a tremendous regular season, and basically the whole group's back. So they're all real happy to see each other. I think we've loved the way they've stepped in hot, and the at-bats have been very on time right away, and we're kind of off to a good start with everything this spring. So we're just trying to stay healthy and get prepared for the season.
Mike, you were heavily involved in the rise of the Houston Astros, and now we see you come over to the Orioles, and we see some similarities. Could you kind of give us a little bit of insight as far as that's concerned?
Well, I'll tell you what, Carlos, you were there for a lot of it. I and Sig Mejdal and other people here that were part of the Astros rebuild, and we've got a lot of people here, including Brandon Hyde, that were part of a similar rebuild with the Cubs at the same time. We all benefited from that experience, and some of it wasn't good experience. We all made mistakes as we were doing those rebuilds, and we learned from them. And I really think the Orioles benefited from having a group of people that had just been through something like that, and it enabled us to attack this with kind of an uncommon level of experience in a rebuilding process.
Got some pitching questions for you, Mike. Before we get to individual names and starters, I want to talk big picture philosophy with you here. You and your coaching staff, do you guys have any limitations, any real directives on innings workloads? How much work do you want guys to get in the spring? I know that it's a case-by-case thing, but philosophically, how do you approach pitching in spring training?
A little bit case by case, and I'm certainly not the person best to speak on this in our organization, but with our starting pitchers, we kind of tend to try to get most of them to like a 5-inning, 75-pitch level, something like that before we break here. It's not really possible or kind of in the cards to build up our starters well beyond that in advance of opening day. So we're not only planning for a very long regular season, we want these guys to be up and running if we're fortunate enough to proceed in October. And that's February to October, that's a long time nowadays. So it's not easy being a starting pitcher this day and age, especially with the interruptions that we've had the last few years with the schedule and COVID. And so it's kind of safety first, but we need to get these guys built up and ready for the season.
I want to ask you specifically about two of the guys we just saw graphic with some of your projected names in the rotation. Kyle Bradish, John Means starting the year on the IL. I know Kyle's been throwing. We all kind of collectively held our breath on your behalf when we heard about Kyle's status. What's the latest with those two guys?
Well, they're both doing really well right now. And, this is part of running a pitching staff nowadays. You look around the league, everybody's got 7 or 8 starting pitchers that they like. And typically 2 or 3 of them are down in some way, shape, or form at any given time. And so I don't feel like, we're enduring anything abnormal here. As talented as those guys are, we expect to get them back possibly pretty quickly into the first half. We'll take it as it comes. But we're getting them up and running, and everything's pointed in a really good direction with both of those guys right now. So we feel good about it. They're just going to keep putting their work in, and they're getting back as soon as they can. But we want to do it as safely as possible as well.
Mike, I was extremely impressed with Gunnar Henderson when I spoke to him last year during spring training, and then he went out and really performed and went through his ups and downs. I thought he handled it beautifully. What are your expectations of Henderson coming into the sophomore campaign?
Well, the sophomore campaign, it's always tricky. I think the good news with him is he kind of had a little bit of that experience last year, because we brought him up in September of 2022, had a really nice month as a pure rookie. and then came back with some expectations on his shoulders last year. Had a slow start, but even though he wasn't hitting for average during those first few months, he was drawing a lot of walks. So we stayed with him. We were encouraged by that. And then he kind of exploded as he settled in, and I think was one of the major factors in our team kind of developing from a wild card contender into a 100-win team throughout the course of the season was Gunnar turning into some semblance of the player that we were expecting. And so, he's a year older, he's a year wiser. We'll see what he does, but we're certainly have very high hopes and are just thrilled to have this young man at the center of our organization for the foreseeable future.
Hey, getting back to the pitching ranks, Mike, your left-handedness is well represented on your staff, but there are a couple of free agent left-handers that are out there on the market right now, one who's won a couple of Cy Young Awards and one who was a star in the postseason last year, who I think, based on my interpretation of color scheme, would look really good in orange and black. Do you have the new largesse with the new ownership group stepping in to stay active in the free agent market? Is there maybe more to come before opening day?
Well, look, part of my job is always staying on the phone, and we picked up some minor league signings just yesterday, and we're now getting to a point in camp in March where we've got this group here. We're preparing for the season with this group. We feel great about this group, even though we're not at full health by any stretch. We feel like we've got the camp in here that we can select from and put together hopefully a championship caliber team with the group of guys that are here on this roster. But as a general manager, as a front office, I'm always staying plugged into any possibilities out there, trade or free agent. And that's just part of being diligent in this job. But this is a team here in Sarasota that we're very excited to draw from as we create an opening day roster.
Orioles host the Angels on opening day, March 28th at Camden Yards. Mike, we appreciate the visit. Enjoy the rest of your time in Florida. Best of luck in 2024. Thanks for the time.